All right, hi everybody. This is Dave Crawford with my presentation for assignment 2.1. And the video that I took a look at was called Students Managing Their Own Learning with Khan Academy. And this video was taken at Covington Elementary School in the Los Altos School District in Los Altos, California. Now, I do realize that this was the first video that popped up on the site. However, in my defense, as I searched through the videos, and I probably spent about half an hour on the site before I settled on this, searching on keywords like math, algebra, things like that, uh, had very, very few hits come up specifically related to that, and that really was what what I'm interested in, and so I did settle on this video, not merely because it was the first one on the site. I thought I'd say that and get that out of the way. Um, all right, so let's dive in here, and I'll try to briefly summarize what I found, and hopefully in a way that will be helpful. Again, the video was called Students Managing Their Own Learning with Khan Academy. This was by author Jason Borgen. The date of the video was November 14th, 2011. Looks like not a lot of content has been added to the site recently, but nonetheless, what's there is still very good. There is the rather long URL. Probably easier just to go to the main site and search for it that way. Okay, let's dive right in here with an overview. Now, first of all, this discusses using uh, Khan Academy mathematics videos as a partial day supplement to a standard math program. This is not a wholesale replacement. This is not a class that has been completely 100% flipped. This is a partial supplement that coexists within a more standard mathematics program. This was implemented as sort of a test run in a 5th grade math class, as well as an 8th grade algebra readiness test. So these would be kids that were not quite up to algebra grade level, but were trying to get there, and this was a class to help them get ready for that. They had before and after engagement surveys taken, meaning students were surveyed for their mathematics interest, their level of enjoyment, understanding, and engagement with the topic in general. And of course, predictably, they found that their level of engagement went up, both during and towards the end of their time using sort of the Khan Academy portion of their curriculum. Right, now let's talk about the benefits. The benefits were significant, in my opinion. First of all, during what they called con time, which again was not all day, this was a partial day here. During con time, the teacher was freed up to do a significant number of other things that he otherwise would not have been able to do. He was able to meet with groups of students. He was able to give individualized instruction and really pay a very high level attention, a high level of attention to students that really needed him. And he was also, through the software, able to zero in on exactly who those students were that needed his help. And I'll get into how he was able to do that in a moment. The Khan Academy software, as the students worked their way through it, provides automatic differentiation. And let's just be honest, differentiation is something that's great to talk about, but in a class full of 36, 37, 38 kids, it does become nearly impossible to do effectively, consistently, on an as-needed per student basis. I mean, we make our best efforts, but we really need the help of technology to do a good job. And the Khan Academy program that these students were going through did that automatically, and so really enabled the curriculum to be automatically differentiated for them. The students would therefore work at their own pace. This was a monitored pace, of course, but it was a pace that they were able to determine based on their own rate of learning. The students were also able, not just able, but required to set weekly goals for themselves. Now I want to show you what this looked like. At the beginning of a week, a student would log in, would start the program, and would, based on the curriculum, based on the standards, based upon criteria that the teacher had set, within those parameters, set weekly goals for themselves. And they would have a chart that would look much Well, not much like this one, exactly like this one. And the resolution's a little low because it's a screen capture from the video. But this is a content map for a particular 5th grade student. And so they would start up here near the top, and as they would pass certain things in the curriculum, the content map would open up and connect them to new areas that they would go ahead and study. The ones in blue are ones that this student had completed successfully. The ones in green are suggested areas based on what he had done that he should do next. And a few categories in white are things that were not suggested for him at the time. So the student would look at this, see what he had done, see all the connections he had made, and he could pick any number of green areas to set for himself as goals for the week. And as those would turn blue, they would open up additional connections, additional green areas, meaning areas he hadn't passed yet, and the program would be suggesting for him. So it kind of creates this cool visual flow that the kids really seem to enjoy. All right. Auto-generated spiral review. The program would review previous content in a well, what felt to the student like a random way, but it's definitely not random, and so it would help with long-term retention there. Very, very advanced student-specific metrics for teachers are available through the use of this program to measure the amount of time that students spend on each concept, their level of proficiency, etc. Let me just show you a little bit of what that would look like. And again, the resolution's a little low because it's a screen capture from the video, but this is where a teacher on their computer clicked on a particular student, and this diagram opens up. It shows color-coded segments of this circle graph demonstrating the amount of time that they had spent working on particular areas. The different colors reference the number of questions they got right and wrong, and any of these areas can be clicked on to drill down further to see did the student request hints while working on a particular problem? How many attempts did they do? Are they showing a pattern where they're showing decreased amount of time spent on each problem where it's getting easier for them, or is the time increasing for them and they're getting frustrated, etc. So there's just an insane amount of data that teachers can easily look at on the fly, which allows the teacher in the Khan Academy classroom to strategically invest their time with specific students that need it. All right. Let's see. Automatic motivation and collaboration. We want our students to be motivated. We want them to work together. We would love it if it was automatic, if it was student initiated. And I want to show you a brief clip actually from the video that I watched that shows how and why the students found themselves to be automatically motivated in this way. So let me turn the volume up here just a little. Yes, I would like to open this file. Okay, here we go.
Really supporting each other. It's a team. They're always talking. And when you go in, there's a buzz in the room. And the buzz is it's positive talk about learning and math. And I think that is what you want to see as an educator.
You get x by itself, right? So you divide this side by 9, and you also divide that side by 9.
Here's the key part coming up here.
They just naturally began to get out of their chairs and work with each other, collaborate with one another. They're actually peer tutoring.
So that right there, I mean, that's just a gold mine in math to have students, because they feel so autonomous, and they really are in a lot of respects, working at their computers with each other. They are just naturally drawn out to help one another, to work together, but in a way where the classroom is still under control and the environment is still conducive to learning, and you've got voluntary peer tutoring happening, which is beneficial for the students being tutored. It's beneficial for the students doing the tutoring, because we all know you really learn something when you have to explain it. I mean, there's so many benefits to that particular facet of this program. Well, you get the idea. So, okay, moving on. What about some challenges? There are obviously challenges to this type of thing. First of all, a laptop for every student. You know, I saw a lot of classrooms in this video that looked like this. Well, if this picture will open up for me here. There it is. You see, this is an elementary school classroom. You've got the standard elementary school desks, but they're in groups of 4, and every kid has a laptop, looks like an older MacBook on his desk. Not all teachers have that. I don't have that. And so this working really, really well is contingent upon the availability, the ready availability of this. And so that is an obvious challenge. Second, Khan Academy often faces the charge of drill and kill. It's just kids doing a bunch of problems. And after all, we all know that's a horrible idea, right? Well, without getting into some of the philosophical implications and pedagogical implications of that, um, obviously, students working through custom-tailored curriculum based on their own individualized needs is not the same as handing them a worksheet with 50 problems on them and saying, come back when it's done. This can, of course, be used in a wrong way. There is such a thing as relying on this too much. But that is a caution there, but I think it's something that can easily be avoided. Another challenge is a teacher must be willing to give up some control, depending on how a teacher, what they feel comfortable with, their teaching style. This might be more or less difficult for them to do because obviously they do give up a significant amount of control in their classroom, but I think ultimately if they're willing to take the plunge, this would work out for their benefit. You need to get parents on board. Sometimes parents will feel like, so you're just going to make my kid learn math on their own then. And that's obviously not at all the case. But parents need to be shown, and it's the teacher's responsibility to explicitly and carefully demonstrate to them how beneficial incorporating this into the classroom as a tool, not the sole tool, but as a tool in the class, will really benefit them. Now let's talk about my class for a second. This is tough for me. I simply do not have a class set of computers or devices. We are looking at going to all school one-to-one device ratio in the next year or two. The money to provide class sets of laptops for every class is just not there. Is what will likely happen is we will probably have the cost of an iPad rolled into our tuition. And so that's coming, but it's not now, it's not this year, and it's not next semester. And so at this point, it presents a fairly significant obstacle for me to implement this, sort of full on like we saw in the video. The options I do have, there's a computer lab. I can take my class to the lab on certain days. It's difficult logistically, requires scheduling. It won't be as efficient. The students won't be as used to it, so you'll lose more time in the transition. You'll lose more time because it won't be a familiar part of students' routine, but I can do it. Another option is assigning some of these things at home. And cutting down on maybe more standard format homework and assigning students to do some of this work at home. I would be able to achieve some of the benefit that we've seen here by doing that. Another very good option, I think, in my current position is to, instead of going all in with this because I don't really quite have the resources I need, is to assign some of these things as needed for remedial issues or enrichment opportunities. I think doing that kind of immediately is really a no-brainer at this point. Personally, my goal is to dive into the rich options that Khan Academy provides. That sounds like a broad statement with no meaning. What I mean by that is I'm familiar with Khan Academy. I think we're all familiar with Khan Academy. I've watched many of the videos on the site. They're very good. But in terms of, using it with an account and beginning a particular stream of activities that can be tracked with metrics and things like that, I really need to dive into the site and see how they have laid it out, see how user-friendly it is, and see how it works. And finally, some thoughts for discussion here. What about your class? Do you currently have the resources that you would need in order to make use of this on any level? Are you, like me, a little bit not quite there yet and kind of waiting for that day to come a little bit? Where exactly are you at? Secondly, do you think that specific disciplines are better suited to this? Why or why not? Math is very well suited to this. History, writing, science, PE, Music, you know what? Your particular discipline, does this strike you as, wow, that would really work for what I do, or wow, I'm not sure how I would fit this into what I do? You know, what are your thoughts on that, and you know, why do you feel that way? And then thirdly and finally, I think this is the last one. Do you simply see this as mediated direct instruction, or do you see this as something more? It is, you know, I follow some various math ed blogs and people on Twitter and stuff, and it seems like the cool thing to do right now is to hate Khan Academy, to be honest. It's just, you know, any kind of direct instruction right now is just not the thing. If you are telling information or showing information to your students, well, you're just a horrible teacher. Obviously, if that's all that you do. But the key to this, is with so many other things, is balance. Um, yes, Khan Academy is an alternative form of direct instruction. The students are watching the videos that are being explained to them. The examples are being worked out in front of them. Do you simply see this, therefore, as barely, slightly better than a typical lecture format classroom? Or do you see this, as I tend to, as something significantly more than that? I'm interested in your thoughts there. All right, well, that'll do it for me. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing your presentations as well.